Hey Web World, Scotty D. Thanks for stopping by to my July 2014 comic book poll haul video, whatever you want to call this thing that I do each and every single month here on my channel, where I showcase the latest additions to my comic collection that I've added over the last 30 days, as well as some casual conversation around some tips and tricks to help you tune up your hobby habits. How about that? Well, before we get into the comics and the casual conversation, let's get into the formalities of the channel. If you'd like to write me an email, it's real simple to do so. It's scott@scottydonline.com, as well as if you'd like to follow me over on Twitter, my Twitter account is @ScottyDOnline, and if you'd like to become more than a channel subscriber, believe you me, I appreciate every one of you who clicks that little subscribe button for my channel. But if you'd like to become more than a channel subscriber, I have a level above that where you get some perks and rewards and some bonuses along the way, and that is you can become a channel patron. To become a channel patron, go on over to my link in the video description below, patreon.com/ScottyDOnline. Read what the campaign is about, and if you feel so compelled afterwards, I do appreciate all of your support. When you become a patron, what it does is it allows my channel to be possible. It makes what I'm doing right now possible. Without your support in the Patreon campaign, this channel is pretty stagnant where it can go without your support. So definitely go on over there, check out the Patreon campaign for my channel. It's patreon.com/ScottyDOnline. Again, that's in the video description below. You can check out all of the perks and rewards and bonuses that you'll get along the way. And those perks, rewards, and bonuses will evolve over time. Never for the negative, always for the positive. So go on over there and check that out. Again, that link is in the video description below. On to the comics. All right, let's get started. I'm going to take a quick sip of water, pardon me. Always important to stay hydrated when you're making your videos. Otherwise, you get a clickety-clackety sound in your mouth when your mouth gets dehydrated. It'll almost sound like you're chewing gum and smacking that gum. So always, always, always drink plenty of water when you're making videos or recording. But let's get into what we wanted to talk about today, the comics. This video is probably going to be a lot shorter than videos past on my channel about comic book pulls and hauls. And that's because I went back and I looked at the previous videos, and they have an average runtime of about an hour. And I know how tasking it is to ask you to sit down and carve out an hour of your time to focus or enjoy the video that I made. So by request of the Techertainment community, I had a couple of you that wrote me directly in email asking, is it possible to shorten these videos down? Yes, it is. And of course, if you want to write me an email anytime, as I talked about in the very beginning part of this video, the email address, scott@scottydonline.com. It's in the video description below for easy find and easy use. So let's jump right into the comics for this month. It's going to be relatively short in the pulls and hauls. This is part of a haul that I got this month off of an auction, and we're going to be talking about auctions a little bit later on in this video. But this is an original Marvel Star Wars number 70, and this was on my wish list of my back issues for the original comic run of Star Wars, the original 1 through 107. So definitely was a great find for me, and I happened to find this in a lot of 2 comics for a really good price, so I nabbed it up as quickly as I could, and I do appreciate the seller making it possible. This one is in great condition, bagged and boarded in a Silver Age Mylar from BCW's run of comic book protection material. And definitely, if you are part of BCW and you happen to be seeing this video, drop me an email. I'd love to promote more of your product and potentially make a sponsorship relationship. You know what I'm talking about? Anyways, this one right here, its story is primarily a flashback that takes place shortly after the events of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. So I thought that that was kind of an interesting comic to have because it was immediately following A New Hope. And if you know, that was the first movie that was ever released in 1977. So this was kind of a flashback following immediately after A New Hope took place. And I found that very interesting because it has characters in it that look very, very similar to A New Hope, including one that looks like Greedo, but it's not. I went and I had to go back and read the pages before it again, going, is that Greedo? Greedo made an appearance in here? How's that even possible? He got shot in the cantina. How is he in this comic? But after I went back and I read the comic a couple of times, and I do that, and I find myself reading my comics more than once. It wasn't Greedo, but it looks a lot like Greedo, probably from the same planet. And it's also had a character that looked like a gargoyle in this comic, which was really strange. And that's how you can tell that they start to stray from the canon, when you start to see really oddball characters inside of the Star Wars universe. And so that one was a little weird. Just a strange storyline, not a bad storyline, but certainly with the characters that are a little off kilter, it becomes strange, but a good story. So definitely one that you want to have in your collection if you are a good, true Star Wars fan that are looking for either canon or not too far from the canon. So this one is Star Wars number 70. There you go, number 70 right here in the top corner. This one, I like the cover art as well. Kind of a mysterious, kind of a lighting effect on the characters on here. All of the mainstay characters from A New Hope, other than the Empire. Obviously, another missing character from here is Obi-Wan Kenobi, but a lot of great cover art there. The corner art right here is C-3PO and R2-D2, which I like. Just a good comic to have in your collection. And if you've got some classic comics like this, I recommend sticking them in Mylar bags and boards, just because it gives a little bit more added protection to your comic. And a little bit more longevity to the bagging material and the board material than you would in a standard polypropylene bag. So just a little bit of a hint right there. And we talked about bags and boards on a previous video, so if you want to go back and check that out, definitely check that one out. I showcased not only one, but I think I showcased two different brands of comic bagging material. So this is the second comic that I got from that pull, and this is Marvel's Star Wars number 73. This one was a really, really strange comic, and definitely not one that I had on my wish list for back issues to start with, but because it came as part of a pool of a lot of comics. It was actually a lot of two. It was the number 70, which was part of my wish list, and this one just happened to be in it. The entire lot was a phenomenal price for the condition of these comics, so I nabbed this one up just kind of as a added bonus to my collection now. This one's entitled Double Jeopardy, and the story in this one starts with these cat-like characters. And these cat-like characters really caught me off guard at the very, very beginning, because I thought at first they were Ewoks. Because they only show the back of the heads in the cell in the comic, and I thought, wow, there's Ewoks already? Is this like the first appearance of Ewoks in the comics? And it wasn't. It was cats, because they flip around to their front of their faces, and they're definitely not Ewoks. They're cat-like characters that are called Lashbees. They make an appearance in this. I don't know if they make future appearances in any other Marvel Star Wars comics. I'll have to get more into my my wish list and see if they make another appearance, or if this is the only appearance that the Lashbees actually show up. Now, there's another character in here who is from the planet Zeltron. It's a female character that's name is Danny, and Danny's right there. And it was very strange, because as the Lashbees are making their appearance, Danny's trying to make out with Luke Skywalker. I kid you not. She's trying to make out with Luke Skywalker, and Luke Skywalker's like, whoa, chill out, Danny. So kind of an interesting start to the comic. And also Lando Calrissian makes a good appearance in the beginning of the part of this comic book, piloting the Millennium Falcon while they try to search for Han Solo. So that was kind of interesting, trying to find Han Solo. And now this book strays very far off from the canon. It does. Not only with the Lashbees and Danny and the planet Zeltron, but because there is a couple of scenes in this comic, one in particular where Luke Skywalker is flying what appears to be a biplane glider, Wright Brothers looking style airplane that has no engines, no futuristic capabilities, and it's right here on the cover. Let me see if I can get really close here. See if it'll get clear. See, there you go. There's Luke Skywalker in the glider. And when I seen it on the cover, it kind of took me for a second to understand what it was. And then when I got into reading the comic, I was like, no, really, that's truly just a biplane glider that Luke Skywalker is holding onto, like almost like a parasail. It was very, very, very weird to see that and think that this is supposed to be a futuristic Star Wars comic. Now, granted, it's on a different planet, so could be just the technology on that planet, but still, it was one of these weird offbeat situations in the comic that Luke Skywalker is, kind of piloting a Wright brothers style biplane glider wing looking thing. I don't even know what you want to call this thing, but that was just weird. And later on, there's a Wookiee-like character named Hook, and I hope that I pronounced that right, that attacks the characters, and then Chewbacca comes in and saves the day with a little help from C-3PO and Lando Calrissian. So just a really strange storyline, and this book is a prime example why I normally steer clear and stray too far from the canon in my comic books. I just steer clear of non-canon comics if I can. Like I said, I wasn't originally set out to get this comic. It just happened to be part of a lot of comics that I wanted one of them, so I added this to my collection. Not one I'm entirely excited about, but as I add a couple of more of the back issues that I'm really searching for, hopefully I'll see some of the continuing story of number 73 before it gets to 107. Excuse me. So there you have it. Original Marvel Star Wars number 73, called Double Jeopardy. Some strange characters, some strange happenings. There's that battle between that Wookiee-like character and Chewbacca right there. So kind of an interesting battle scene inside of this one, but definitely far from the canon. But for those of you who like and enjoy the EU, it's probably right up your alley, but it wasn't very believable at all for me as a true purist Star Wars fan. But it's in my collection now, so I appreciate that. All right, the last comic that I got from auctions this month is this one right here. Definitely one that was on my wish list of back issues from the original Marvel Star Wars comics, and this is the Marvel Star Wars annual issue number 2. This is a king-size annual. And that's one of the things I liked about the annual issues that they released back then, is they were a little bit thicker than the normal comic, which gave a little bit more space to tell a longer story. Definitely this one took me about a good 30 minutes to read through it and absorb all of the content and all of the cells. And just a weird comic. And it starts with the cover art. I mean, when you look at the cover art, you're like, what in the hell is going on here? And it's just an all-out weird issue that starts from the cover art and goes all the way to the back page. I stress highly that you get this in your comic collection if you don't already have it and read it, just for the weirdness of it. And especially, I know it's not canon. I know it's not. But it seems like this story in this is a cross between what would be Indiana Jones, hint, hint, and Star Wars. And the main focus in this comic book is all around Han Solo and an alien race. That's all I'm going to tell you on this one, but Han Solo being the main focus of this story, being on this weird planet, and kind of the storyline that's wrapped into this thing, a very strange comic, almost like, what in the world? I mean, you're left with, at the end of this comic, going, really? That's what they came up with for annual issue number 2? Again, if you are a EU fan, this is going to be right up your alley. It's going to stray away from the canon. It's going to take you down a different universe path, and some strange happenings in this book, but definitely one to have in your collection nonetheless. Even if you are not an EU fan, you've got to get the annual issues. There are only 3 of them, so it's not hard to fill them into your collection. You can find these at cons as well as at some local comic shops might have these. I don't know why they're not so sought after, because to me they're kind of a rarity. You don't see annual issues like this, at least as of yet, and we hopefully we'll see some as Marvel takes over the reins back next year from Dark Horse, but definitely one to have in your collection. Now, my pull for this month is the same as last month, 2 comics, and sadly, the time is ticking on Dark Horse, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit more on next month's comic book pull haul video, along with some other great things that are going to happen between now and next month's video. This one right here is from my pull list from my LCS, and this is Star Wars number 19. It's part of a long run of Dark Horse comics, as you can imagine, from 1 to 19, how long the run has gone back. This one is sitting in a Silver Age polypropylene bag and board, and I've talked about this on previous videos that I kind of differentiate what I bag in polypropylene versus Mylar, and you can go back and check out those videos in the past of my monthly comic book pull haul videos to kind of see why I do this. But this one, definitely a great storyline up to this one. Last month was kind of strange because it said the end or something like that, I believe, at the end of the comic, but then they came out with number 19. I've got to be honest with you. I've enjoyed this story up to now. This is by far the biggest lackluster issue in this series of Dark Horse Star Wars comics. Really, it was a boring comic from start to finish. Not really much happening. It left me desiring more from what they provided, and it questions my mind of where Dark Horse is going with this, as well as any potential last minute Star Wars that they release before the end of the year. But this one, because it's part of an entire run that I have from start to number 19, I had to get it. It's on my pull. I wanted a complete series of this one, but Dark Horse, honestly, not impressed at all with this particular number of Star Wars. Number 19, very, very, very lackluster of a comic. But hey, if you're a completist, definitely get this for your collection if you are doing Star Wars. This is actually Star Wars Volume 2, particularly looking at which ones to look for in getting past issues. This is Star Wars Volume number 2 from Dark Horse, and this is number 19. Very lackluster, and I'm not going to give it any more camera time than that, because that's about as much as attention I gave it when I read it twice. This is the last comic that I got from my pull list for the month of July from my LCS, and I've enjoyed every single one of these comics in this series from Dark Horse. This is Star Wars Darth Maul, the Son of Dothamer. This is number 3 in a mini-series run that is a comic book adaptation of an unaired episode of the Clone Wars cartoon. So, that being said, I consider this canon. I don't care if Marvel or Disney never consider this canon. I consider it canon because it's from an unaired episode of the Clone Wars cartoon. I've enjoyed every single one of these up to so far number 3, and the series wraps up next month with number 4. So hopefully it's going to end on a powerful punch. I can't wait to read the last one. Definitely one you want to get in your collection if you are a diehard Darth Maul fan or a Clone Wars fan or just a Star Wars fan altogether. A great series. The artwork in this is really left to almost being similar to the Clone Wars cartoon, so it's not meant to be realistic. It's meant to be a little bit more cartoonish in the lining and in the black lines and the colors. But I'm telling you, this one, it's a great series. Get Darth Maul, the son of Dothraki, every single one in this miniseries. It's only 4 comics. Come on, you got to get this one in your series of collections for Star Wars comics. Now, I've added a couple unique things this month to my collection and to my comic book man cave, if you want to call it. The first one that I added this month for me and my little boy, I got this one right here. Darth Vader and Son. Just a great book. I think it's more for me than it is for him. But when I got it, I kind of expected a storyline in it. And much to my surprise, it doesn't read that way. So if you are looking to get this book, now it's a hardback book, and I got it online. I'll put a link in the video description below where you can get this book for your very own. It is my affiliate link. It doesn't cost you anything more than what you would pay for it anyway through this link. And in fact, I believe I got this book as a Prime member for half off of what it gets priced at in a store. So the suggested retail price is $14.95 US, £9.99 in the UK. I got this for, I believe it was $8. So just under half off for Prime members, and it was free shipping. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, definitely you'll get some free shipping on this, and you get a discount on the price as well by being a Prime member. But if you would, use that affiliate link to buy this book, because it helps this channel just a little bit, and it doesn't cost you anything more than what you would pay for it anyway. So again, Darth Vader and Son. Let me give you a couple of sneak peeks at the inside. There's the inside papering. It's really cool. Check that out. Darth Vader and his son there. I'm just going to flip through. Each page is almost like its own story. So you kind of, as a parent, when you're reading this to your kids, you kind of tell a story about the page. Don't worry about the page to page, because there is no running storyline that I can tell between pages. Each page is its own kind of story in and of itself. For instance, Luke, what are you doing? Get out of there. He's in the trash compactor. Remember that? Remember that scene? And then over here, it jumps to, perhaps one of you would like to babysit my son. So it's kind of an interesting series. There's the last scene from A New Hope where Luke's getting his medal from Princess Leia. You see it kind of jumps around, but a fun book nonetheless that you've got to have in your collection for yourself. And if you've got kids, it's a great way to introduce them into Star Wars in a very fun, non-threatening, non-violent type manner. So a great book there. There's the back cover right there. Again, there'll be a link in the video description below where you can get one of these for your very own. And lastly, the addition to my comic book cave here in my studio is something that I wanted to do with my comic, but then I thought about it. I wanted to hang my comics on the wall and found that it would be extremely expensive to frame that comic in a frame that had UV protection and that provided a means to not allow it to get damaged by direct light or anything like that. So I found this online in an auction, and I wrote the maker of this, or the auction owner, and I said, "Is this really what I think it is?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Is it a sticker?" He goes, "No. This is an aluminum." Can you hear that? Just making sure you know that it's aluminum. It's not cardboard. It's not paper. This is an aluminum embossed. You can see the embossment on this. You see Star Wars back here, the embossment, and some stuff here. If you kind of start to recognize what this is an aluminum embossed, printed sign of the original Marvel Star Wars #1 comic. This is badass. I love this thing. When I seen this online, I think I paid somewhere around $25 or something like that for this. That included shipping, I think. I thought it was worth every dollar spent because I can have Star Wars #1 hanging on my wall while my true comic stays protected in its Mylar and in its shelving unit, away from direct sunlight. This sits on my wall, and it's aged to look like it's a little worn, like the comic was. Back in the days, if you really read your comic hard, you started to wear it and put a little bit of wear and tear on the ink. You can see it up close. It's worn out to look vintage, and it is printed. This is not a sticker. I don't know how he did this or who did this, but it's in my cave now, my office, my studio, and it hangs on my wall just behind my chair, and I can enjoy it and look at it. This is awesome. I couldn't even believe when I found this thing. So this is the last thing that I added this month to my kind of my findings, if you will, to my Star Wars comic book collection, and definitely one that I'm going to cherish for years to come and be able to pass this down to my kids in generations and generations, that they can enjoy this as well. In embossed aluminum. Look at that. Look how embossed that is. We're not talking skimpy here. That's very embossed into this aluminum. Check that out. There's a great shot there with some reflection from the light. And then there is the printing. So from here you can kind of see the embossing of that. Look at how it's raised from the aluminum itself. Just a cool addition to my comic book collection, and not even a comic at that, but it just allows me to enjoy my comic hanging on the wall without any damage to it. So let me set all this stuff to the side because I want to get into a couple of important pieces of information that's coming out of the San Diego Comic-Con that's happening. I think today's the last day, or yesterday was the last day, but some important information came out of it related to a very predominant comic book selling agency, as well as some upcoming precursors to what's going to be coming out of Marvel with the Star Wars run. Now, this organization is a longevity mainstay, recognized name in the comic book collecting realm. I'm talking about Mile High Comics. And President Chuck Rozanski said in an article that he's got some apprehension about attending a future San Diego Comic-Con. They took a loss this year, a pretty hefty hit in monetary loss just by what happened at this year's San Diego Comic-Con, to a tune of $10,000 in monetary loss. Wrap your head around that for a second. And goes on to mention that he simply doesn't have the funds and the ability to pay $10,000 out of his own pocket for the privilege of providing the fans with the comic books. It's just not possible. And we're seeing this across the realm in comic book consumption and even content production, like here on YouTube. And that's one of the reasons why I had to start my Patreon campaign. Again, the link is in the video description below, patreon.com/ScottyDOnline, because I just don't have the ability to fund this channel 100% by itself. And community support and involvement will make things possible as we go forward. Sure, will there be attendees at Comic-Con that just want to give things away? Absolutely. But Chuck just clearly came out and said, I don't have 10 grand in my pocket just to build a 7-booth facade at Comic-Con for comic collectors to come and get their comics. It's costing me $10,000 out of my pocket. Not me. This is Chuck talking about this. And so there was kind of some analysis, unofficial analysis wrapped around this. But in a nutshell, comic publishers with booths at San Diego Comic-Con have so cleverly exploited the greed of comic fans through limited edition publications that are only available through their own booths. So that draws people directly to these booths for these limited edition comics, and people are swiping them up for well over cover price. And what that's doing is it leaves no or very little disposable income left in the room to sustain us. And that's what he's talking about here. So what happens, if you can kind of simplify this, is all of these special issues, limited issues, variation covers, all the stuff that you want as a collector is only available at booths of the publisher, not at booths like Mile High Comics. And that's drawing you to get those special editions that are well over cover price, and it's taking away from the other booth vendors from being able to make a sustainable return on investment. And that's exactly what I talk about here on my channel with my Patreon campaign. And I very transparently discuss this in the campaign video. Go on over and check it out on my campaign video for Patreon, patreon.com/ScottyD online. Check it out. The link is in the video description below. I talk about it as well. The evolution of content creation has dramatically changed for YouTube creators. And we're seeing it also now happen in conventions for comic book fans. We're at an impasse. We're at a fork in the road. You have to decide where you want your comic book arenas to evolve to. And if you want the big boys to get your money, then certainly they'll take your money. But the smaller people, in comparison, like Mile High Comics, they're going to take a hit. And you're going to see less and less and less of these. And that's going to happen is that these conventions are going to cost more and more and more because the convention creators are going to have to charge more to get their return on investment. So, see, while it may seem like one small little piece, it can waterfall into a big, big issue for we and us in the comic book collecting community and the fans of comics and the fans and the supporters of these other agencies and these other organizations like Mile High Comics in your local comic shop from attending your local conventions. So definitely think about that when you go to these conventions, and think about that on how you spend your money at these conventions if you want to see these conventions stay true to what they've always been in some continuity as they go forward. So another announcement that came out of San Diego's Comic-Con was at Marvel's Cup of Joe panel discussion, and that happened on Saturday afternoon. And Marvel had announced at this Comic-Con that there are 3 series that are going to come out when they take the reins back from Dark Horse. There's going to be Star Wars by Aaron and Cassidy, Star Wars Darth Vader by Gillen and Salvador, and I can't say your last name, I hope I don't butcher it up, LaRocca. So that's going to be Star Wars Darth Vader. And then there's going to be a special Star Wars Princess Leia by Mark Waid and Terry Dodson. All 3 series are going to take place in the time frame immediately following the end of the original Star Wars movie. So keep that in mind. And the Star Wars and Darth Vader are going to be an ongoing series. So starting with 0 or 1, we don't know this yet, but it'll be an ongoing series. And then the Princess Leia series that's going to be coming out next year is going to be a 5-issue miniseries. So you're going to want to grab these up as soon as you can get them on your pull list. Get them on your pull list. I'm telling you what, these are going to be hot items. And then one last thing happening here in Pittsburgh is Steel City Con. One of the best promoted local conventions right here in my local area, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Steel City Con right here. This happened to be at my local comic shop that I picked up when I got my pull this month. So I was happy to see that they had reached out to all of the local comic shops with some pamphlets, but I also got this color flyer in the mail as well. And what's interesting about this is in September, there's a Pittsburgh Comic-Con happening here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I haven't seen one thing of promotional material for that Comic-Con. They have a website, they have a YouTube a group page, but other than that, it's kind of like there's nothing being talked about it in the community around here, and I was very disappointed in that because you'd think that one would be promoted extremely high. The cost is higher to get in the door, but what I found is when I looked at their website that the website's poorly designed. In my opinion, it's poorly designed. It doesn't give enough information about what's happening in a very clear, concise manner. I've written the owners of the Pittsburgh Comic-Con. Sadly, I haven't heard anything back, but it is what it is. I think that I'm going to end up going to Steel City Con this year here in August, which is less than 9 or 10 days away before Steel City Con. I don't know if I'm going to go to Pittsburgh Comic-Con just because I don't feel the information is being provided very well enough for me to make a informed decision to pay the price that they want for door admission to go to something that it's not well promoted. So I'm excited for Steel City Con. I'm going to give them some screen time right here. Check them out if you are in Pittsburgh or around Pittsburgh. Definitely check it out. Some great artists going to be at hand. Some great panel discussions or celebrity discussions rather. Some cool celebrities showing up here, from Dean Cain to LeVar Burton. You got Vern Troyer going to show up. Mindy Lee Sterling. You don't know who Mindy Lee Sterling is? Frau from Austin Powers going to be at hand. A couple of the Power Rangers. Some classic actors, Butch Patrick and Pat Priest from the Munsters TV show way back in the days are going to be at hand. And then, of course, the guy that I want to meet and get an autograph and a picture with right there, Mr. Lando Calrissian himself is going to be in the building at Steel City Con. I cannot wait for that to take place. There he is again. It's going to be at the Monroeville Convention Center. And if you are in the Pittsburgh area or around the Pittsburgh area, definitely one to check out. SteelCityCon.com is their website. They are not a sponsor of this show, but if you are part of the Steel City Con team and you guys want to reach out to me to be a future sponsor, definitely we can work something out. But in the meantime, I'm just a big fan of your show. You guys do a great organization and promotion and awareness, and because of that, I like it. So these are going to get put off to the side now. Now let's talk about the tips and tricks to tune up your hobby habits. This month we're going to be talking about buying off of eBay. This is either a really good experience or a really bad experience, in my opinion. I have had some horrible experiences buying from eBay. Items not showing up as described, packaging just really, really bad, damaged comics. So I wanted to put together some questions that you can ask an eBay seller. And this doesn't matter if you are a Star Wars comic book collector or if you collect the strangest off-the-wall comic that is available online in an auction. You can always ask these questions because they're very generic in manner. So the first thing you should do with any auction you're interested in is read the description thoroughly. Read it again after you read it and comprehend what the seller is trying to say, and inspect any pictures provided with great detail. Zoom in on the screen, look at the pictures, read that description over and over again. And if you don't agree with the description, or if there's missing information that you feel is important for you to make an informed decision to bid, ask. Ask. I can't reiterate that enough. You need to ask questions when you're buying from an auction and get all of your questions answered no matter what. No matter how bizarre the question is, you as a buyer have a right to be informed, and that seller should be very forthcoming with information very freely to answer your questions. If the seller is reluctant to answer a question or a series of questions, you'll need to decide if that auction is the right one for you to engage in further. It really comes down to that. I've found out that a lot of sellers are inexperienced when it comes to customer service, when it comes to providing detailed information in their descriptions, providing detailed pictures. They're just inexperienced. They take a picture and they make a ton of assumptions. So much ambiguity is in their description. It's unbelievable. So read the description, look at the pictures, ask questions. Get all of your questions answered. If you don't get a question answered, and that's because the seller doesn't want to answer it, you should really question that seller. And it doesn't matter if plus seller, a 100% feedback. It only takes one time to make you have a bad experience. And you're paying for it online. You're paying for shipping. You get this in your hand. If you don't like it or it's wrong, then you have to deal with the seller to resolve the issue and hopefully get to a resolution that's satisfactory to you. Let's see, read the reviews of the seller by other buyers. You can click on the little stars and where it says the numbers of stars and there's a number next to it. Click on that and read the reviews of the seller by other buyers of that seller. You can learn a lot about the seller by the feedback they receive from people who have bought from them in the past. And pay close attention, not so much from the positive ones. Look at the negative ones. It's the same thing I do when I read a product review online that I'm potentially going to buy. I don't look at the positive ones. That's the beautiful little rosy red picture that everybody likes to paint when they're either a yes man or they just don't care. They'll write positive things no matter what. Read the negative ones. Sure, there's going to be those negative Nellies and those people that are just out to bash a seller. And you can kind of read between the tea leaves, if you will, on those feedbacks from buyers and pay close attention to them. Because a lot of times if it's negative, the seller will have a chance to post back about that negative comment, and you can see the thread of that. So pay close attention to that. Any negative feedback may have information that helps you make an informed decision. You know, like I said, they could be the best seller in the world, 100%. But if they get that one negative or that one undecided, read those. There's a telltale sign in those. Find out, are the pictures in the auction that the seller is using stock photos, or are they actual photos of the comic that you will be receiving? That is hugely important. There are a lot of big name sellers, comic book shops that sell on eBay that use stock photos. So you don't know what the comic looks like that you're going to get. You can read the description, and sure, anybody can say this is in good, near mint, mint, fine, fine plus, whatever it is. But really, remember, grading of a comic is subjective and opinionated. You as the seller have a right to see the comic that you are buying. Or you as the buyer, rather, have a right to see the comic that you are buying. I personally steer clear of any seller that uses stock photos that is reluctant or resistant to provide actual photos of the comics. I've written requests to sellers saying, can you provide me a real photo of the comic that I'll be receiving? And they go, well, I sell so many comics online that I don't have time to take a picture of the comic that you want to bid on. Well, guess what? Next. It's your loss, not mine. You might find somebody that can buy on spite and mystery and read words and trust that. But it's my dollar. It's my time. It's my money. It's my effort. It's my collection that I'm potentially adding your comic to. If you don't want to provide me a real picture of the comic, you're not getting my bid. You're not getting my attention. Next. So ask that buyer, when you see that comic picture, if it even remotely looks like a stock photo, ask them, is this a stock photo or is this the real comic that I'll be receiving? And there's a reason why I'm suggesting all of these questions to you in the end, because there's something that you can do in eBay if you have a bad experience. If the comic that they're not showing, if they're not showing the actual comic, right? Be sure to get the following pictures of the actual comic that you will be receiving that's from the seller, right? So my notes are off the screen here, and I've got notes off the screen so that I don't miss anything, because this is important. Get a picture of the front cover. Get it as high definition as you can. Look for the vibrance. Look for the sheen. Look for the condition of it, of that front cover picture. If it's an older comic, or if you are just a stickler of getting the indicia page, get an indicia page picture. Make sure you can read the info on the indicia page. On older comics, you can see published information. If it's a reprint, it might be in there as well. So definitely, that's one of my pet peeves, is I want to see that if it's an older comic. Get a centerfold picture. Get them to open up the comic carefully. All my comics are bagged and boarded, but if you can imagine if this was a comic, have them gently open it up, because you don't want any spine stress or creases on the spine, and take a picture of the centerfold showing the staples. When you're looking at, see, that's an idea. When you're looking at the picture, try to see if you can discern the tightness of the staples. Do they look tight? Do they look loose? Do they look like they've been replaced? Look for the integrity of the staples. Are they rusted? Because if they've been stored in a moist environment, you may not have a lot of moisture damage to the paper, but might have damage to the staples, and that'll be a telltale sign on how these things have been maintained. And lastly, get a picture of the back cover. Check for soiling and dirtiness on that back cover, because most comics sit on that back cover. Just check that out. And if you see any defects noted in the description, get an up-close detailed pics of those defects. It'll help you make an informed decision. If there's a crease, a color break, something like that, get detailed pictures and kind of compare those to comics that you have in your possession. If there's a color break, you can kind of measure it on your comic to say, it went from here to there, so that's about this length. So that kind of degrades the comic value, right? So if the seller's unwilling to provide pictures, buyer beware. Really, it's buyer beware, and you need to make an informed decision. I can't tell you to do or not to bid on an auction if they don't do that, but me personally, it's buyer beware. I don't care what your rating is as a seller. If you are reluctant to provide extra pictures at the request of a potential bidder, buyer beware. It just takes a few minutes to take these pictures and upload them to the auction, or even that matter, to email them to you. So definitely ask questions, ask for extra pictures if those are necessary for you to make an informed decision. So if they are not accommodating, again, you should be concerned that the seller may be trying to hide something, or if there's an issue with an item when you receive it. Will you have difficulties in dealing with them for returns or refunds? Even if they have a high positive rating, like I said, it doesn't matter. If a seller is reluctant to accommodate a buyer, even with small things like pictures or information, buyer beware. Ask if the comic is complete, if it has no missing pages or clipped coupons, etc. That's important, because that has a definite impact to the overall value of the comic as well as to the overall condition of the comic. So ask about that. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is ask if the comic is coming from a smoke-free home or smoke-free environment. I don't know, other than maybe a restoration process that could get quite costly and could have a negative impact on the comic, to remove smoke smell from paper. So just ask that. If that's important to you, you need to ask that question. It's important for me. Ask the question, are the comics being stored in bags that are in boards that are acid-free backing boards? Because a lot of people will have such a large collection that they don't have the time, the know-how, or the experience, or the money to bag and board everything. There's various reasons why comic collectors don't do this, but for me, I want to know how these comics that are in the auction, how they're being stored, how they're being maintained. Aside from bags and boards, how are they being stored? Is it in a long box, a short box, open air on a shelf, etc.? Ask these questions. Very, very important. How will the comic be protected during shipment to prevent from physical damage of the comic? Very important question to ask. I don't know how many times I've gotten a comic that's in a very flimsy paper envelope. It's going to damage the comic. A bubble wrapped envelope with no cardboard in it. Going to damage a comic. They stick too much tape around the comic, and the tape now sticks to the comic. Never has happened to me, but I've heard horror stories. Just all around, ask how the comic is going to be protected in shipment from physical damage of the comic. If the comic needs to be returned because of damage or other reasons, does the seller cover return shipping cost? Does the seller accept returns? Things you need to ask. Very important. Remember, this is a purchasing experience. If you are looking at a comic and the seller is stating a comic grade level in the auction description, like I said, fine plus, it's a 9.0, it's an 8.5, whatever. And the comic is a non-CGC or PGX or slabbed, I'll call it formally graded comic. I don't even call it officially because I talked about CGC comics on a previous comic book pull haul video. You can check that out. But if it's a non-slabbed graded comic and the seller's just stating a grade level, ask them by what methods did they use to come up with the assigned grade. Is it the Overstreet grading guide? What version of the grading guide or release of the grading guide that was used? Is it the eBay Comics buying guide thing that eBay makes available? What are they using to grade their comics if it's not official? If it's an officially graded comic, you can go to that source like CGC or PGX, and you can ask them how they grade their comics if you're not aware of that. I'll put a link in the video description below to the eBay Comics buying guide that more often than not I go and I see that sellers are using that as a methodology to state a grade. But again, pictures say 1,000 words. Grading is opinionated. If the person is selling a CGC or PGX comic, ask them, are they the original owner? Because that's important. If this thing is passed hands over time, you want to know that. Maybe they don't know how many people before them, but if they are not the original owner, then you need to find out when the comic was graded. For CGC comics, you can get the number off the CGC label, contact CGC, and ask them. PGX has other means as well. The last thing you want to do is ask about the condition of the slab or the encapsulation material, because if it's damaged in any way, shape, or form, you want to see a detailed picture provided from the seller itself, because if you want that encapsulated comic to be perfect and it has a damaged slab or encapsulation material, it's going to cost you extra money to send this comic that's slabbed back to the original grading service to have it re-encapsulated in undamaged material. So you want to know that up front, and by asking the question and getting your pictures and getting your questions answered, it's going to help you be a more informed buyer on eBay. By no means is this list of questions that I provided to you today the be-all, end-all, grandiose master list of questions, but hopefully you found it useful and helpful. Certainly, you might have additional questions that you ask above and beyond what I provided today in this video, and if you do, drop it in the comment below. I would love to read them, and certainly anybody watching this video might find them helpful as well in helping them make an informed decision on buying on eBay auctions when it comes to comic book collecting. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That really helps me out here. Share this video with somebody else. That's the way we have organic growth on my channel, is by you clicking that share button and sharing it in your social media arena as well with all of your friends and connections. If you are already subscribed to my channel, thank you so very much. I do appreciate you being right there and clicking that subscribe button and becoming kind of an active member in my channel. And if you are not a subscriber, it's real simple to do so. All you need to do is go over to the main page for my YouTube channel and click on the subscribe button. And when you click on that subscribe button, you're going to be part of the community as a subscriber. Make sure you click on the gear icon right next to the subscribe button and enable updates. What that's going to do is that's going to inform you and update you anytime I post a brand new video on this channel. Because if you don't do that, it's anybody's guess what's going to happen. YouTube has its own personality, and sometimes it'll tell you, sometimes it won't. And by clicking that enable updates, so say the people at YouTube, that's going to be a way for you to be informed and updated every time I post a brand new video here on my channel. And certainly, if you want to become more than a channel subscriber, to be getting perks and rewards and bonuses along the way, you can become a channel patron. I highly recommend you go over there and check out the campaign. Some great perks and rewards are in there right now. They will evolve over time as the patron level grows. And the patron campaign allows me to take this channel beyond what it currently is. I listen directly to you in the community. You want more of me. You want to see more on my channel. And the Patreon campaign is the only way that I can get that to become from an idea to fruition and a reality for you to enjoy on this channel. Again, the rewards and perks and bonuses will evolve over time. Go on over and check out my Patreon campaign, patreon.com/ScottyDOnline. That's in the video description below. And if you want to write me an email, it's real simple to do so. Scott@ScottyDOnline.com is the email address. Twitter account, if you want to follow me over there, is @ScottyDOnline. Both are in the video description below for easy find and easy use as well. So until the next comic book pull haul video, whatever you want to call this thing, until the next video on my channel, we'll see you next time, Web World.